Have you ever reached burnout?
Yes.
Many times.
Yes. And we've done other podcasts about it. We've reached burnout several other times in the past.
Well, we've learned something new this time, so we're going to
Yes.
share it with you here on the podcast. Let's jump in.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Let's Quit podcast.
Quitting is not always a bad thing.
If you have the right mindset, quitting can be the most powerful tool you have on your journey to success. It's certainly been helpful for us.
Whether it's flying through hurricanes, building our businesses, or just trying to get to bed on time, we're always trying to level up and improve our lives.
This is the show where we share the lessons, experiences, and friends that have helped us live this incredible life. So let's quit the bad and grow the good together. All right, well, we'd like to welcome back all of our old listeners and welcome any new listeners that might be out there. Hey, what's up? We're Jennie and Davis. We have a podcast. This is basically our therapy session for the week. Not really, but
We just like to talk through everything that happened to us during the week, and sometimes we can get some closure, learn some new lessons, see patterns, predict behavior, learn from it sometimes.
So we want to share that all with you because some of you find that stuff interesting.
Yes.
So we're here for you. Cool. Let's recap. No, let's do the book question.
Yes. Oh my gosh, we always almost forget the book question.
All right. So we got this cool book at Target, 3,000 Questions About Me. It's just a way that we can get to know each other a little better and create some content very easily. So
Yes.
let me grab a pen.
Oh, it's a 50-50 shot. These questions are either very deep or they're like very surface level and kind of silly.
And
you
fun.
never know what you're going to get.
Yeah. All right. This one's weird. All right.
Great.
Question number 5. What is your current state of mind?
Actually, kind of an appropriate question for this episode.
Burnout.
I'm shocked. Yeah, current state of mind, I would say, is just
Overwhelmed?
very full, overflowing.
Yeah.
Just very full. If I picture my mind as a glass of water, I am like, okay, right before a glass spills, you can like fill it up just past the lip of the glass and it'll kind of round over and make like a bubble. But then once you move it, it just overflows and all the water spills everywhere.
Oh, like the penny, like in science class?
Yeah.
And you would like count the number of drops you could drop onto a penny before it spilled out? Is that
Yes,
what you're talking about?
exactly. So that's what I feel like my mind is right now. It's right on the verge where it's like if I add one more drop or move the glass, it's just going to...
Your penny is full?
Yes,
Your
my
penny
penny.
full?
Yes. Not pitiful, but my penny is full.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're both feeling that right now. But this is the first time, and we'll break this down later, but this is the first time I think that we've ever like seen burnout coming. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to be able to stop it. It's not going to cripple us for a couple weeks like it normally does.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
We're learning.
We'll see in episode 60 of the podcast whether or not we achieved it or not. But
So like episode 60.
yeah, but
Quit dying.
current state of mind, good book question,
Yeah.
is currently burnout, which is what we're talking about today. So let's recap, everybody. What have we done this week? So first thing is we have been milling lumber for our big kitchen table job. That's like our
Yeah.
number one thing going on right now.
We're still fulfilling other orders in the background and selling stuff in the background, but this big kitchen table is probably like front and center, the main. It's definitely the main build right now.
Yeah, and it's been a lot of fun. But as you'll see in the YouTube video this week, we had some trouble with the lumber. So we started milling up the lumber, and there were just checks and cracks and splits all through it. It looked like string cheese, really.
Yeah.
Like you ever pulled a piece of string cheese apart, like sideways? You know what I'm talking
Like
about.
from the center, like not at the top.
It's
but-
wood. It's fibrous, and so when it splits, it like sort of hangs on to itself like
Yeah.
melted cheese. So
Yeah,
looked
it
like
was
that.
pretty bad. And it was frustrating because usually all the lumber we get from this place is really good. And we haven't even had to think about it. We just call it in, we pick it up, and it's in great shape.
Right. We've been spoiled. We haven't even had to learn we haven't even had to learn about the different grades of lumber because we've been spoiled to such good lumber from these guys. So
they give us true first and seconds. For people who don't know, that's like the highest grade lumber that you can get, and we're just so used to getting that because that's what we pay for, that this time around we were like,
but this time is
wait
pretty
a
bad,
second.
and we had to anyway. That's what the YouTube video is about this week. Is we
Yeah.
just went through that whole process of educating ourselves about lumber and calling back and getting it swapped out. So the story ended well, but it was a lot of a lot of chaos on this job. So
Yeah.
we're still learning. There's always new stuff to learn. So, but yeah, we've been working on that kitchen table, which is going pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be right on time.
We will have to get some help delivering it, though. We were
Oh my
like
gosh.
already deciding
This
that.
table is going to be 9 foot long, 4 feet wide.
Yep.
And we're building out an 8 quarter. white oak. So it's
Yeah.
going to be heavy. The tabletop alone is going to be 300, 400 pounds.
Yeah, the leg assembly is pretty simple and minimalistic, so that won't be too heavy.
But
But
the
like,
tabletop, man, that's going to be bad.
yeah, it's gonna be too much for even just you and me.
I'm trying to
do.
figure out how we're going to strap it down in the pickup truck.
That's what I was thinking about the other day too.
So I don't know. We'll have to bubble wrap it and protect it.
Yeah.
And anyway, that's future and Jennie Davis's
Yeah,
problem.
thankfully they're like, kind of local within Houston, so it's
Yeah.
not like we're leaving Houston to go deliver this.
Right,
but-
which that's another thing we got to tackle one day, but not today.
Yes.
So, that's about it. We released our business program. I think we talked about that a little bit last week, but man, we were just shocked by how many people are just enjoying that program
Yeah.
and starting their businesses. And
We even got tagged in a post on Instagram the other day of somebody like, hey, this is my first official post of my brand new business. I
That's
officially
awesome.
decided to make it happen. I
That's
made
great.
the page. We're going for it. So yeah, I think it's been going really well.
Yeah, we started a program, or we launched a program called My Basement Business, and it's basically how to get a talented person who likes to make things up off the ground with their business and get them their first 3 sales. I don't want to call it a beginner's program because it's definitely not. Like I would say if you've made less than 10 grand in sales, this program is helpful.
Yes.
If you've made less than $10,000 revenue of selling your work, then this program has plenty for you to learn.
We even get into some more like advanced type
Right.
bonus material at the end.
Right. But it's also a good audit to go back and look at all your different processes and
Right.
see what are you skipping, what are you not covering.
That's what I was
because
just gonna say,
We've
too.
we've started and run 2 successful businesses out of our house in the last few years, and we've pretty much figured out the formula of what it takes to do it profitably from the get-go. So you don't need a ton of money to invest. If you've got tools and you know how to make things already, that's all that's required.
Yeah, if you're willing to put in a little bit of hard work and genuinely market yourself, like
Yeah, and
You're
we
good.
give you all the step-by-step instructions. We got a great workbook that goes along with the course
yes, the workbook I think is the most helpful part. Like once you get the
because that
program,
tells you what to do.
yes,
Like that actually, like so many times you'll see education products or something, and it's just about running a business. It's like, oh, hey, think about this or think about
it's very
that.
conceptual.
Right, but this program actually like walks you through step
We
by
literally
step
tell
what
you
to do.
how to name your business. If you don't have a name for your business, or maybe you don't like the one you have now, we literally tell you exactly how to name it.
And we tell you exactly how to price your work. We tell you
Yes.
exactly how to build a portfolio. We tell you exactly how to launch your business.
We have a pricing calculator. All you need to do is plug in your numbers.
We even give you
like-
the words to say to make your first 3 sales.
Yeah.
Like you are fully taken care of in this program. We have thought through everything, getting you your first 3 sales and beyond. And then answering a ton of the questions that we get all the time that we just don't have time to respond to. So those are in
Yes.
that program as well. This did not intend to be a sales pitch for the program.
No, I know. I'm just so excited about it.
Yeah,
It makes me so happy.
mybasementbusiness.com if you're interested. We want to make sure every maker has access to the direct information of how to start a business
Yeah.
because there's just too much information out there. You get bogged down. You don't really know what to do. But this is a step-by-step guide of telling you actually what you need to do to get started.
We've been wanting to make this one for years now,
Yep.
and it just
And we've got
we're
more
excited.
follow-up programs. So for those that want to do advanced marketing and advanced sales, we got a couple other different topical programs coming down the pipeline too. So we're really excited about this. It's sort of because I mean we're expanded beyond the garage now. We're in a warehouse and we're removed now from what the average person could do in their garage. And so this is sort of our last hoorah of everything that we've learned running a business out of the house.
Yeah.
And we're putting it into these programs so that it's the best information. That way we can go on and do bigger things and teach other people who want to expand beyond the garage how to run a business. But there's a certain way you have to do things when you're starting out in your garage, and that's what these programs are for. Because very quickly now we're going to be running a business that has employees and is doing supply chain stuff and product
maybe we'll make
manufacturing.
programs from about that just
Right.
as we go along.
But that's going to be different information. So,
Absolutely.
But we wanted to make sure we got out everything we had learned from the process of building a business from
Yeah.
our home into these new programs. So that's why you're going to see a lot of programs from us in the next few months.
Right.
It's because we're trying to brain dump everything we've learned, good
Before
and
we
bad,
move on.
to help other people. So,
So
yeah,
yeah.
that's it. That's pretty much all we've been doing this week, except for the tiny detail of almost losing our dog, Bruce.
Yes, for those of you who know Bruce, he is the one with the pointy ears and the little dock tail with the dopey smile on camera all the time. Basically, this occurrence is
Not Caleb.
Yeah.
Sorry, your description was kind of broad, but no.
Anyways.
Bruce, the Doberman, he got out the other day.
Yeah, and that's kind of sparked this whole podcast and why we agree that we're approaching burnout. So we were supposed to go out to dinner and a movie with some friends. It was just, we were supposed to blow off steam. We'd been working really hard this last week, especially on these new programs,
on the table, on everything that we're doing.
Sales, everything. And so we're like, all right, let's just take a break. We're going to go out to dinner and a movie with some friends. Let's go. So of course, in true approaching burnout fashion, we got home from work late. And so we were a little rushed in turning around and getting back out the door to go to dinner. And so we're like, all right, we got home, you changed, grab your purse, grab your wallet, let's go. Oh, let the dog out. We're like, okay, cool. So we let Bruce outside, shut the door, and then we hurried out and left. And apparently we did not let Bruce back in because we pulled into the restaurant parking lot and got a phone call from our neighbor that was like, hey, I think I see your dog walking around. And we're like, okay. And so I turned to Davis and I'm like, did you let Bruce back in? And then his face just goes blank, like,
because I
don't remember. I honestly don't remember if I let Bruce back in. And I was like, you have to remember. And he's like, but I don't. And so we had to turn around and go back home. And it was kind of scary because it was a Saturday night. So there's more traffic than usual. It was dark already. And Bruce
he's a black dog.
Bruce is an all black dog. So he blends in a lot at nighttime. And, there's traffic and, lots of things going through our heads of like, please don't get hit in the road.
Well, not only that, when we tried to go home, we went the wrong way. So there's like concentric circles around Houston, and not trying to dox ourselves at like where we live, but like we went the wrong way around the circle trying to go home. We got confused on directions.
Just a bunch of traffic, and it was just a nightmare.
And so we drove like 15 minutes in the wrong direction thinking we were going the right way around this loop around Houston.
So that stressed us out. Anyways, so we made it back to where we live, and then we eventually found Bruce just
chilling in the neighborhood.
Just
laying in somebody's front yard.
And we're like, Bruce, get in the car.
So, yeah, but that was the clue. That was the wake up call for us that hey, you're working too hard. If you can't remember to bring the dog back in before you go out to dinner, like something's wrong. You're doing too much.
Like we're not the most organized people all the time, but if we're not even organized enough to let the dog back, like that's a sign that something's wrong.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a wake up call, and we just paused and we're like, look, I don't know what's coming, but something bad is coming.
About to happen. Right. And I mean, in the past, we have seen stuff like this happen to us in the past, whether we've left the stove on or whether we've forgotten to get gas or whether we've I'll
forget appointments. There was one time that I forgot a hair appointment, didn't look at the calendar, 2 hours past the appointment time. And I was like, oh, I just missed that completely.
Right. We're normally forgetful, but we usually remember in time, or we set up systems in place to catch ourselves. But when we're approaching burnout, I'm sort of spoiling the title topic, but when we approach burnout, one of the things is Jennie and I get extremely forgetful, more than usual. And so this is just one of those signs that, hey, you guys might be working too hard. And so before we get sick or we get some sort of tidal wave of doing too, when you get into burnout, there's all sorts of things that can happen. I mean, anxiety, depression, sadness, sickness, even your body does not respond well to burnout. And so, having been multiple veterans of burnout
in the past,
we recognize the warning signs this time. And now we're taking active steps. We're leaving work earlier now. Yeah. We're taking dedicated time away from the businesses and stuff because we know that we're gonna have to pay for it. We're either going to have to take breaks on our own terms, or we're going to get put on our butts when we least expect it if we don't do anything about it. So
let's dive into the title topic, and we
got a lot to talk about today. So hopefully you're like us. Hopefully you are a workaholic. Well, hopefully not. But if you're listening to the podcast, you probably are. So
got some go-getters that listen to the podcast for sure.
Yeah. So whether you're trying to change your job, chase your dreams, build a business, whatever it is that you're setting out to do, to take on the world, you're probably going to approach burnout at some point. So I think it's worth talking about burnout itself. So what is burnout, Jennie?
Oh my gosh. So I guess if I had to define burnout, it's when so much piles up that you physically can't handle it anymore in your brain. Like you cannot hold all the information, and then other things in your personal life start suffering. It's when you officially can't balance everything anymore.
Right. You take on more responsibility than you can like tackle or accomplish.
Yeah, biting off more than you can chew.
And it's not necessarily that you're taking on anything extra. It's just that your bandwidth, your capacity to accomplish things drastically reduces because you're tired, you're sick, you get some sort of...
Let's say you got something going on in your personal life and you just like your bandwidth is cut in half for handling things that, go on in your business or your job.
Right. And even normal tasks become oversaturating and you don't get them done because it's just too much to handle at any given point. So you're asking, I don't know, my definition of burnout is when you have been asking too much from your body for too long that it can no longer keep up with everything you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. And you start letting stuff slip through the cracks, like letting your dog back in.
Because we're all human after all, and we have limits.
So how do we approach burnout then? What happens? So there's a YouTube video we put out a couple months ago when we were daily vlogging. Yeah. Or I was daily vlogging.
Yeah. I was gone flying.
Yeah. And I talked about burnout. I had this really cool metaphor that I want to share in the podcast again, but it's sort of how you approach burnout. So let's pretend for a second that we're all cell phones. Okay. We have a battery. We also have a backup battery, those portable battery packs that you can like keep in your suitcase or whatever and like recharge your phone without a wall outlet. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep, those little square packs.
Right. So let's pretend that we are cell phones and our day-to-day battery, getting enough sleep, eating healthy food, stuff like that recharges your normal everyday battery. But you have this backup battery pack, right? Mm-hmm. And let's say that you're at like 2% battery, you didn't get a lot of sleep that night, but you got a report due at work and you have to get it done before you leave. You pull out your little portable battery pack, this is called grit, and you just grind it out. You do what you need to do. You don't get enough sleep, you skip lunch, you eat fast food, you do whatever you need to do to get it done.
And you get it done, which is good.
But you're draining that backup battery. You're draining your amount of grit. And what happens over time is if you're consistently not getting enough sleep, if you're consistently doing too much, that your daily battery pack can't do it all, and you're always having to go to that backup battery pack, your grit battery per se, then your grit battery pack runs out. Now your body is tired, you're out of grit and motivation to push through, and that's when you have no ability to do stuff. That's when you approach burnout.
And then you have to be willing to put in the time to not only recharge your everyday phone battery, but you need to like recharge the battery pack too. So now if you reach into that like grit battery pack, you're basically accepting the fact that like, hey, in a few days, I'm going to need to take a bunch of time and recharge everything.
Right. So what we've learned over the years of being professionals at burning out is that those two batteries recharge in different ways. I was sort of talking about it earlier, but like your daily battery, that's getting enough sleep. That's eating the right kinds of food. That's, like eat some fruits and vegetables. Oh my gosh. Like get some fiber in your diet. Like don't just eat McDonald's all the time. You will have more daily energy. Now, it's not going to make you motivated. It's not going to make you want to run through a brick wall and tackle your dreams, but it'll give you enough energy that you can do what you need to do any given day. Your grit battery is recharged by big events, going to conferences like Workbench Con and meeting all the people doing what you're trying to do. Like that's super encouraging. You only need to recharge your grit battery 3 or 4 times a year, maybe. This is like a vacation. This is a break. This is just a good step away from everything you're doing, a change of scenery, if you will, to recharge your grit battery. And that'll give you juice to dig into and motivation to push through on those tough days. Yep. This is why we talk about setting goals all the time. Setting really big goals that you're excited about. That's another way you can recharge your grit battery. Once every 6 months or so, you and I sit back and set some pretty big goals for the next 6 months. Yeah. All those but you just got to understand that recharging those batteries is totally different. Just because you catch up on sleep doesn't mean you're automatically going to have more grit and motivation to keep running your business or changing your job or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. So say all that to say, understand there's 2 different ways to recharge those batteries, and you've got to give an appropriate amount of time to both of those things. You can't just ignore one or the other and expect it to work
to save
flawlessly.
You next time. Yeah.
Right. So, I've talked enough on this. So we've talked about how burnout happens. What about your warning signs, Jennie? You want to talk a little bit about that? Talk about how you need to experience this to know your warning signs.
Yes. So when it, kind of like what we were talking about at the very beginning of the podcast, we got to a point where we started to realize, hey, I think burnout might be coming soon. Like, we lost the dog in the neighborhood and just very stressed. And so what we're learning is if you can recognize the warning signs of burning out, that's going to help you so much more so you can try to avoid it. And I think the best way that, I don't know, the best example we have for this of like what we've done in life is when we went to the altitude chamber for our Air Force jobs.
So what's the altitude chamber?
Basically, the altitude chamber is where they train you to be able to tell if like the plane's losing oxygen.
If your body's not getting enough oxygen.
if you're not getting enough oxygen.
It's a big room. It's like a shipping container, and you're all sitting there in airline chairs, and you've got this oxygen mask off, and then they pull all of the oxygen out of the room.
And you literally go hypoxic. And,
Yep.
and the purpose of it is they want you to go hypoxic for a very short period of time so that you can see what you feel like. Because everybody experiences it differently.
Some people get giggly and happy.
Yeah.
Some people get really confused, and they don't think they're confused.
Some people get like really aggressive and like
mean,
and they think they're right. And people say like, hey man, your lips are starting to turn blue. No, they're not. My lips are fine. And so everybody experiences differently. But the point is you have to experience it to know what your warning signs are.
Right.
So then when you're in the airplane, you can say, ooh, I'm starting to feel like a little dizzy. Like, ooh, the last time I felt this was when I was at the altitude chamber. Hey, maybe I'm starting to go hypoxic and I should tell the rest of the crew that something's up. But yeah, and the same thing like happens with burnout. You have to recognize, what's happening. Maybe for some people, when you get burnt out, you want to be really productive. When other people approach it, maybe they start to get really lazy. Who knows? But you have to just recognize what yours are and figure it out first.
Yeah, and so that's why you can't just guess. Like, don't take our list of what we're going to share, our list of what our symptoms are, but don't just look for those things in your life. You actually have to do some self-reflection and be like, yo, last time I was burned out, what were my friends and family telling me? Were they telling me I'm working too hard?
Yeah.
Because that could also be an indicator that you're about to crash, even though you don't think you are. That's the crazy thing is you have to have situational awareness to know that you've lost it. You have to know. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to know that you're broken in order to fix yourself.
Yeah.
So,
but it's hard to see yourself when you're broken.
So here's our little list of symptoms of when we're approaching burnout. Everybody's going to take these out of context and use them for themselves. But we told you up front to figure out your own. But our warning signs of... we already talked about we get really extra forgetful. We're normally not very rememberful. We get extra forgetful. Stuff like the dog, stuff like not taking the trash down to the curb. I'll run out of underwear because we haven't done laundry in a couple of days, and I'll just totally lose sight of the fact that we haven't done laundry.
We'll start eating fast food because we don't have time to meal prep, or we'll eat everything and then be too busy to like replenish it in the fridge, so we just go out to eat.
All of these sound crazy if you're an observer, like watching from the outside, but when you're in the thick of it, you don't realize that you're too sucked into whatever it is that you're doing. And anyway, that's just our symptoms. So we'll start to notice when we're extra forgetful, or we do things, we forget to do things that we normally do. Then hey, we might be approaching burnout.
Yeah, and why it's so important to have these. I guess like warning signs is so that you can stop yourself and say, hey, I'm starting to get really forgetful. We've gone out to eat 3 times this week. I think maybe we need to take a break.
Yeah.
Let's take a break.
Oh, another one is that we don't hang out with people. Like, we get really introverted and quiet and like become homebodies when we start to get burnt out. And it's kind of funny because we schedule this dinner and a movie with friends in order to like not see that symptom. If we go longer than a week or so without seeing friends, then we know, hey, something's up. So we intentionally scheduled this night out so that we could take a break, and then we saw a couple other symptoms pop up, and that's what finally told us like, hey guys,
let's slow down a bit.
Let's slow down. Let's not crash here.
Because let's talk about the outcome of had we not realized that if you don't choose to take breaks because you see warning signs, then you burn out and you're forced to take a break. Do you want to discuss what that looks like when like you're forced to take a break?
Yeah. I mean, whether like God, the universe, the yin and yang, whatever you want to call it, like the universe wants its pound of flesh from you, and it's going to get it. If you don't give it to it, it's going to take it from you. And if it takes it from you, it's going to be when you least expect it. You're going to get sick.
Yep.
You might come down with a cold.
And then you don't get to choose when you're taking a break. It is today because you're sick.
Right. Your immune system starts to go haywire. Your body does not like operating at max efficiency for a long period of time. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're doing when you overload yourself as a workaholic. You could get into a fight with a coworker or a spouse. Like you could really... Your
stress, tensions are high. All of a sudden, you've got this big argument that breaks out, and then you're forced to take a break after that.
And you can do some permanent damage, like...
to everybody involved. And then it's not just you anymore.
Right. You could make a big mistake at work. You could forget something. You could not write the report, or you could do a bad job at your job.
Or if your job is something like ours, where you deal with power tools all the time, you could hurt yourself.
Right. That's another thing. You're overwhelmed. You're thinking about stuff you got to do in the office later, and then boom, your hand goes right through the table saw blade, and you're just not even thinking about it. So,
you could lose your dog.
Too soon, Jenny. Too
on a
soon.
Saturday night.
Oh my gosh! Ouch.
It's true.
But yeah, so that's what it looks like when you get a tidal wave of burnout, and you haven't paid your dues, so to speak, of recharging those batteries the way that they need to be charged. So that's where we talk about like taking breaks intentionally. So what does that look like?
I mean, it could look like simple things, like the easy answer is like, oh, well, obviously just take a day off. But I mean, if you boil that down, you could turn that into like taking smaller 15-minute breaks throughout the day. Like,
think about the pool. Like, they do this at the swimming pool, like with all the kids, because they know the kids don't have the discipline to like take breaks. Then they drown, and then the pool gets sued, and the lifeguard, So that's why they have a rest break at the end of every hour. Is they blow the whistle, they get everybody out the pool, and they make the kids take a break because they don't have the discipline to take break themselves. And we don't learn that lesson as we grow up either. So I need a lifeguard that just blows a whistle every hour.
Get out of here!
It makes me stop for 10 minutes.
Yeah. And we talked earlier about setting goals too. Maybe establish a new goal for yourself to work toward, to give yourself like energy and motivation.
Take a vacation. Oh my gosh, go get lost in the woods for 3 days. Don't actually do that, but
don't get lost.
Have a plan. But like, go camping. Like, have a big change of scenery. That's going to recharge your grit battery, your motivation battery. And then just, I don't know, maybe like during the week, schedule a date night. Just go do something out of the ordinary to just snap you out of it once a week, and that'll help recharge your daily battery and your motivation battery. You can also have a hobby or something to go do.
Yeah, have a separate hobby that's not work.
Something that's like rigidly scheduled into your week that you can't move, like a tea time. Like golf is a great one, because like that's 4 hours. If you play 18 holes, that's 4 hours that can't be moved or touched on your schedule. So have a standing tea time or whatever if you like to play golf with some friends. You can also go fishing or camping or travel. I mean, there's all sorts of ideas, but just do something in your schedule that can't be moved, that is a giant chunk of time, and then don't let yourself reschedule it later. So action steps for this week are pretty straightforward. Number 1 is reflect and identify the warning signs of burnout. What does that mean for you?
Figure out what yours are personally, because they might not look anything like ours.
Yeah. And then also maybe take a look at some of the tidal waves. I know it's going to be kind of emotionally hard to look at and reflect on, but maybe look at how you treated somebody last time you were burned out. Maybe look at, did you get sick last time you were burned out? Did you have to take a bunch of sick leave or whatever? Maybe also know what it looks like when you have a tidal wave, and use that as motivation to help you pay your dues every week as you need to, so you don't have to get sick every 2 weeks or whatever. You see this a lot with people who produce social media content for like over 10 to 20 years.
Yes.
Like, they will hit a point of burnout and you won't hear from them for months. Like Casey Neistat, like, dude vlogged every day for like 3 or 4 years straight.
And now he'll post a video like maybe
every few
once
months.
A month. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, not that I'm glad he's taking time for his family and everything, but like, you just can't sustain that high level of production for that long, even with as many amazing systems as Casey Neistat had to produce content.
Which he does, yeah.
You want a total, like, off topic, you want a professional, like, crash course on how to optimize and build systems to produce a lot of content with minimal effort, go read between the lines of Casey Neistat's videos.
Well, it's not even like reading between the lines. He has like a whole video where he talks about how he stores all of his
footage. And he'll sit there and tell you it's boring and obvious to him, but like that's a gold mine
to us. It was like mind blowing. We're like, oh my gosh, that is so organized. That's an amazing idea. And
so anyway,
it's a good resource.
Aside from that, so I feel like we're enabling people to approach burnout because now I'm just teaching them how to take on even more responsibility with less effort. So I'm just making the problem worse. But if you take time out of your week, then this can actually help.
Yeah.
So, and then schedule a time in the second action step is to actually schedule a time to quit working at a regular frequency, whether it's every day, every week, every month, whatever it is for you. Put something on the calendar and keep that promise to your calendar. Otherwise, your calendar will disrespect you and not trust you later.
Yes. Because we don't want our friends to burn out.
Yeah. So that's it. That's the show.
That's all we have. We're going to go take a 15-minute break.
I was just about to say I was going to go take a nap.